Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 4 of my Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Out of the Abyss campaign diary. And let me remind you, if you would rather listen to this in an MP3 format, check out the new Digital Dungeon Master podcast website. The link will be in the description below, and you'll be able to download this episode and all the other previous episodes for the Out of the Abyss campaign diary. Picking up where we left off at the end of episode 3, the party is in this place called the Oozing Temple. And they found out about this Oozing Temple from the halfling that was cocooned that they saved last episode named Fargus Rumblefoot. Well, he and his party of adventurers were going to come into the Oozing Temple, and because this is a place that is supposed a place of great wealth, and Fargus and his group of adventurers were basically attacked by surprise by a group of hobgoblins. Well, Fargus was the only one to escape. Then he got caught up on the big giant bridge that expanded across the entire gorge of the Underdark, and he was captured by a couple of spiders that were going to have him for dinner later. They put him in a cocoon, the party found him, yada yada yada, and then he told the party where this Oozing Temple was. Well, they didn't know it was called the Oozing Temple. Fargus just told them that it was a temple that was lost from time, and it was a place of great wealth. So as they started going in, they started seeing a theme that there were quite a few gray oozes that were attacking them. One fell on top of Eton in one of the chambers. Fergie started advancing because everybody was arguing who was going to go first. Fergie just said, I'm going first. So Fergie encountered a big gelatinous cube that was actually intelligent. Its name was Glabagoo, but as it was trying to have some type of communication with Fergie, Fergie was trying to tell the party wasn't listening. They attacked Glabagoo, they killed it, no problem at all. Which I actually would have let Glabagoo be an NPC and let somebody control the gelatinous cube, but they killed it. And then at the end of last episode, I was talking about making this grand epic finale in here that was going to bring back Glabagoo, but I actually decided not to do that because they already had their chance with Glabagoo, and I didn't want to give them another one. So they fought this black pudding at the end of last episode, and they were in this aqueduct system, and at this point, this place is starting to fill up with water. So by the time where they ended, they're now about knee-deep in water, and it's continuing to rise. Now, during this fight with the Black Pudding, Fingerella went down yet again, of course, so it officially became a game when she went down, which she's gone down actually in every single session that we've played. So there's kind of a reoccurring thing. But I will say this, Fingerella, I have a lot of respect for her because she's not afraid to go in and check for traps. She's not afraid to check for any kind of creatures, but she got taken down by a black pudding. And Fargus Rumblefoot actually was the star of that fight, and he actually did most of the damage. Although I will say that Puck did a great job using his new ensnaring strike spell, and they actually basically held it in its place as they just downed it with ranged weaponry and spells, which was actually pretty good. And, like I said last episode, these guys are all about tying ropes off on one another. And Eton had a rope tied around Fingerella. They pulled Fingerella back into the main chamber of the aqueduct system. And then by the end of the fight, as everybody's starting to, take a break, they're starting to eat some rations. They use a healing potion to bring Fingerella back. And the party reminded Fingerella, because it was super funny, they were saying how awesome Fargus Rumblefoot was, and she needed to be more like him. It was pretty good. But it is also funny when every time that Fingerella goes down, he goes, all right, I'm going to go get a drink. So, and that happened again this episode, which was really good. So to start the session also, we were missing Club for about half of the session. So between myself and the other party members, we just kind of community played Club until he got home late from work. So like I said, the party took their hit dice heals. They went ahead and explored this natural cavern. They actually found out that this cavern was the main source of all of the water that was coming out and filling up this entire oozing temple. So that was something that they were going to have to worry about later on down the line, because this place was, slowly but steadily filling up with water. And like I said, by the end of the black pudding encounter, they were already knee deep in water, but they had been in there for quite a few hours exploring things. Now, Jimson was getting concerned about this water. So Jimson took it upon himself to check out this earthen cavern, and actually he explored the aqueduct system looking for levers to try to shut this water off. Smart idea. I gave him an inspiration for that, but there are no levers or anything like that to stop the water. But in fact, inside of the cavern, Jimson saw that there were a couple of these natural waterfalls, which was actually the way that the water was coming and flowing into the cavern, and the cavern was filling up, therefore it was running out into the rest of the oozing temple. So I gave Jimson an inspiration for that. Now also during the rest, Fergie, remember last time, had found this mace that was inside of Glabagoo. So during the short rest, he found out that it was a flaming mace. It does a little bit of extra fire damage, and he was happy about that. Now, during this entire time, he was also kind of rearranging his mask, or maybe her mask, all of her scarves, all of her new, brooches and necklaces that she had gotten from the drow back at Velkenvelv. So the entire time, she's asking everybody how she looks. I've actually never really seen that before from one of my players. So it was actually really, really funny to hear everybody giving Fergie a hard time that, hey, look, all of this expensive jewelry that you're wearing and keeping for yourself, because some of them were actually 200 and 500 gold pieces a piece. They were all saying, look, we could be selling this stuff and getting money for it, but you're wearing it. It was really funny. So the party knew that besides the earthen caverns that were on the right-hand side, were on the eastern wall, they knew that the aqueducts, there were 4 chambers. They kind of took a southwesterly turn. So Fingderella, still recovering from being taken out by the black pudding, Puck steps up and says, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll check out the aqueducts to see where they go. So Puck, he now is taking point. And, of course, Eton ties a rope around him just in case. And instead of walking, as Fingderella was doing, and, broke the floorboard and his black pudding came out of the, like this hidden compartment, he's actually waiting because he's in a light armor. So he's able to wade and not walk on the floor tiles because, Fingderella told him that's how he had actually broke the floor, was from walking on it. And that was good. So Puck starts to, he's wading through all of these aqueducts, and he finds another space that the tiles were really loose and they could probably break. So he actually avoided it and just told everybody to kind of swim over it, which was a good thing. Then as he's traveling, as the aqueducts take a, west turn and then they start going south, Puck finds a very brightly lit fountain room. And this is where I actually put the epic grand encounter finale. And what I did was I took and there were these niches in the wall. And as I'm describing this to Puck, giving him the description of the fountain with a broken statue, the water being somewhat clear, but the water being a little brackish inside of the actual fountain itself, I was explaining that there were a bunch of these niches on the wall. And in these niches, which were about a dozen on each wall, I put, some treasure and stuff like that. But I also put these dried globs of something in there. And these were the different oozes. Like I put a black pudding in there. I also put a gelatinous cube. I put a gray ooze. And then I put an ochre jelly. So this was going to be the epic finale. And Puck starts to yell back to everyone and say, "Hey guys, I found a fountain room." They're being conscious, very, very cautious about not breaking the other floorboards where more black puddings would come out. So they eventually start coming into the fountain room. But although I will say they were really timid at first, and it seemed like they were actually a little scared. Because by this point, their armor had taken a beating from the gray oozes, their weapons had taken a beating from the oozes, so they weren't doing as much damage, and they were getting hit a lot more often. So, Slubladot being a day away, they wanted to get out of here, and they wanted to get to Slubladot so Shushar and his people, could reward them first for bringing him back, and then they wanted to be able to get their armor fixed. They wanted to be able to get their weapons fixed and stuff like that. So now they had a purpose on getting the hell out of here. But first we were going to do this epic grand finale. And they were being careful. And Fargus comes into the room. So Fargus starts snooping around because Fingdarella, he's still licking his wounds. He's hanging out with Shushar and Jimson in the back, and he's got his bow out. So that, that's the whole reason why Puck starts going up and exploring. And all of a sudden, something catches, like a nice, shiny, bright glint of metal, catches the corner of Fargus's eyes. So he says, "Oi, mate, there's something here in this fountain." So he starts digging around, and he pulls out this beautiful dagger with like a spider and an orb on the end of the dagger. And it's been there for centuries, with no rust. So this is probably magic. And then as he picks it up, he kind of shudders a little bit. And he says, "Boy, when I picked this up, I felt this sudden burst of energy run through my body." So now everybody's going, well, who's going to take that dagger? And Fargus, remember, Fargus is the one that brought everyone here. And Fargus, he had to remind everybody, he had to remind the party that he was getting a share of the loot too. And he wanted this as his share of loot. And the party didn't like this. So the party is starting to talk about, they're going to get the dagger from him, and he's starting to feel threatened. So Fargus, he had this potion of invisibility, and he quaffs it, and he disappears. So now everybody's up in a ruckus. Their arms are in the air saying, "Hey, this guy just stole the dagger." And they, Jimson actually had a pretty good perception check as he saw the sort of like the wake of water. Because when you're invisible, you're still going to give different, I guess you could say, visual effects, as in like stepping footprints maybe appearing in dust, or as in this case, water, the wake of your, feet running through the water. And Jimson saw him leaving. So as he's leaving, Fargus actually stops where Fingdarella is. And then all of a sudden, a packet of thieves' tools are set on the edge of the fountain. And Fargus whispers to Fingdarella. Just, of course, this whisper is just loud enough to where everybody in the party can hear it. And Fargus says, "Oi, mate, take these thieves' tools. They're a lot better than that crap you've got there in your pocket. These tools, I promise, will help you pick more locks and will make you look like you're actually a professional." So everybody's laughing about this, as he's whispering just loud enough to where everybody hears him. But nobody stops him. Puck is like, "Guys, he's right. We shouldn't have been threatening him." And Fargus, he actually leaves. So now we've eliminated Fargus out of the equation, and it's just the group and Shushar now. But of course, the other NPCs, Eldith, Sereth, Ront, and Stool, they did not make it into the Yuuzhan Temple because I did the cave-in behind them. Because, the first couple of sessions, they were really relying on the NPCs kind of, propping themselves up against them. Although they were doing a good job and all, I wanted to eliminate all of these other extra NPCs, which is what I did. And I'm going to eliminate more here by the end of the episode when the party gets to Slough Bladop. So now that Fargus is gone, the party is kind of, bantering back and forth about they just let treasure get away, they just let magic get away. And then with a perception check, Fingderella now notices something like a little shiny glint of metal down in this brackish water that is in the fountain. So Fingderella starts diving around in there, and Fingderella finds a couple of potions. I put an oil of slipperiness in there. I put a greater healing potion. Although, yeah, I said that I wasn't going to do a whole lot of healing potions anymore, but I decided to do one more. And then I let him find this maul, and this maul I put in there for a club. And to distribute magic items, I basically rolled a d6, and I basically keep rolling it to see who's going to get the next item. And I wanted to give a couple of magic items this episode, so I went ahead and gave the Magical Thieves tools to Fingderella. She didn't have anything yet. And then this Vicious Maul, which actually adds 7 damage on a crit, which is really nice. But you have to crit. But actually, Club crits quite a bit. So adding that extra 7 damage is pretty nice. And I think his damage is about plus 12 or plus 13 when he's raging and stuff like that. So, but he didn't know that he had them all yet because he wasn't there. So they found this huge maul with a ram's head on it. They put the maul aside for Club. Fingderella says, well, I'm going to go ahead and take these potions and we'll find out what they are later. And then as this is going on, I have these, remember I said that I put these dried oozes, basically these petrified dried oozes, and water was kind of trickling in from the corners of the ceiling. So Fergie goes over and takes his mace, his nice new mace, activates the flame on it, and starts poking it around on all of these niches looking for treasure. So as he pokes the mace into these niches, water gets on the mace head as it's dripping down, and then the water gets in contact with these petrified oozes, and now they've got these 4 oozes that are attacking the party. And this is the epic grand finale. So they had just had a rest, so they were all up pretty high for hit points. But Jimson, he was getting low on spells. So was Puck because of his ensnaring strikes. But they actually battled these oozes. Really, they did a great job. Shushar used the rest of his, I gave Shushar 2 healing words. He used those. And the fight broke out. I went ahead and actually gave the oozes surprise because they were all kind of bantering back and forth with one another as, Fergie's just poking this, this mace head that's on fire and all these niches. And it was pretty good. The fight broke out and everybody started scattering like roaches. It was great. Right off the bat, the gelatinous cube forms in front of Fingderella. And seeing that it has advantage and they have the element of surprise, of course, all of these oozes got advantage on their attacks. So right off the bat, Fingderella gets engulfed from a crit. Yes, I rolled another crit. Fingderella has the worst luck. And Fingderella wasn't even full health. So as this gelatinous cube engulfs him and crits, he takes enough damage to go 1 hit point away from being killed outright. It was so close, he almost died. So now he's basically suspended in animation, stuck against the wall of the cube, and he's making all these faces in the camera as to what it would look like when he's inside of this cube unconscious. It was great. And just as that was happening, as he was being engulfed, he was screaming, "Get me the hell out of this damn thing!" And then all of a sudden he goes unconscious. Now, Eton did a great job too, because he actually wanted to reach in and pull Fingderella out, which he did. He had a really nice, successful strength check, although Fingderella did take some more acid damage. So Fingderella, by this point, had one strike for a death saving throw because of the automatic damage that he took for being inside of the cube. So he was out, and they just kind of throw him on the ground and forget about him for a little while. And Fingderella, he says, all right, this is a perfect time to go get a drink. So he goes AFK for a little bit. The yellow ochre jelly comes out of the niche and is basically covering the wall because it's a large creature, and it's hovering above Puck, which is in the corner of the room. He thought he was slick, kind of moving over to the corner of the room. Well, this yellow ochre jelly is now fixing to drop down onto him, which he does a great thing by disengaging and going back to where Jimson and Shushar were, because by this point Fingderella had come out into the main chamber and wanted to get into the action. Now Club gets back at this point. He gets online, and I mean, just where he picked off last time, Club is just murdering these things. He doesn't have the new maul yet. He doesn't even know about it, but he's surprised at the end of the fight when they actually kind of present it to him. And he's raging, uses his last rage. He takes these things out. Shushar using all of his heals. I mean, this is actually a really tough fight. Even Jimson, the bow-guarding spell slot king that he is, he actually used all of his spell slots. And he's a wild magic sorcerer, so he for the first time had to start converting his sorcerer points into spell slots, which was a great thing. I mean, it's perfect tactics, and he did a great job by using that mechanic that his class has. Now, the one thing about Jimson, though, I will say this, towards the end of the encounter, of course, Jimson rolls another fumble. So everybody is like chanting in unison, "Roll, bitch, roll, bitch." And when he rolled on the wild magic critical fumble table, he actually got lucky again, and all of a sudden he was basically surrounded by all of these butterflies and other bugs that were flying around him. And this caught the eye of Fergie. So Fergie actually forgoes her attack, and she is enamored by all this. So she's trying to jump up into the air and catch these butterflies and stuff. And everybody's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be attacking the ewes? And she's like, no, I'm trying to catch me some butterflies. So that was actually pretty funny. And the thing is, remember when we first started, I was telling you guys that these guys were not heavy role players. But as the episodes are going on and we're getting together more and more often, these guys are actually starting to role play more and more, which is amazing. Because that's just the way that I dungeon master. I dungeon master, and I guess when they see me do it, they are starting to get more in character also, which is awesome. I love it. It's like mission accomplished for me, you know what I mean? So, after a long fight, Fingderella goes down again. This poor Fingderella goes down every session. It's awesome. So they take the uses out, They give Club that ram-headed maul. He loves it. He's like, wow, this is amazing. Because every time we would kill monsters, he's like, okay, where's the two-handed axe? Where's the two-handed sword? I don't see a two-handed sword around here. So he was actually really surprised that he got a maul. And Puck, he was looking for a bow as well, but it's not Puck's turn yet. But I'm trying to give everyone magic items, I'm trying to distribute them equally, which, yeah, I think that's a good thing. I had them all give me a wish list of what they would like to see, and I'm giving that stuff to them slowly but surely. Now, after all of this magic item identification, They get over to the cavern. Now they're in like waist deep of water, all the way up to like middle of their chest almost. And when they're in this cavern, all of a sudden they can hear Sareth and Eldith. They're screaming down to them, and they look up, and at the top of the cavern there's an opening. And this is where the other NPCs, they lowered the ropes down and into the cavern and, basically got them out of there. And then they took a long rest. And during this long rest, because they hadn't had a long rest in quite a few days, and now with Fargus gone, they needed to get to Slubladop. They needed to repair their gear. They needed to, resupply. They had a bunch of stuff in the party treasure that needed to be sold. And I told them that they would be able to sell everything for full price, because they're bringing Shushar back and whatnot. After the rest, the party starts to travel overnight to Slubladop. They're in the home stretch. They enter the area of the Dark Lake. Place is massive, a massive cavern. You can't see the top. You can see massive stalagmites and stalactites everywhere. You can hear the waves crashing against the shore. You can see all kinds of small insects, all kinds of larger birds flying around. And Shushar is he's trying to pawn off his religion because he worships the Sea Mother. And Fingdarella is actually kind of buying into it. So Fingdarella is starting to get a little bit closer to Shushar. And of course, Shushar is a hands-on type of healer. So he's asking him how he's doing, and Shushar's like massaging Fingdarella. And as this is happening, Eton and Club, they're like, what are you doing? So now an argument's starting to happen, saying, what the hell are you going to do? Worship the Sea Mother? You're going to be worshiping a false god. Because actually, Eton had done a history check, and I had told him a little bit about the Sea Mother and whatnot. So he says, what are you doing? Going to worship this false god and all this other stuff. So now they're arguing in the middle of the road, and then all of a sudden, Shushar starts to sniff around, and he says, I think we need to get off the beaten path. I smell of the Kuatoa. Hopefully they're from Slubladop. So everybody scatters. They get off the road. They're hiding in outcroppings on the side of the road. And then all of a sudden, these Kuatoa start to, walk up to Shushar. And Shushar actually know these guys from Slubladop. And it's Ploop. And Ploop is basically the leader of Slubladop. So Shushar tells everybody it's okay to come outside. But the Kuatoa, they start to pull their weapons out. Everybody starts, it's like a Mexican standoff. And Shushar says to Ploop, oh, no. These are my friends. They helped me escape from Valkenvelv. And of course, Ploop, he's saying any friend of Shushar is a friend of mine. And then Shushar introduces everybody and all this good stuff. And then Ploop, he is just enamored with everybody. And he's telling everybody that, oh, wow, the Sea Mother has answered my prayers. And then Ploop goes into telling Shushar and the rest of the party that Slubladop is now in turmoil because his daughter has basically started worshiping the Sea Father, and her name is Blop. So now Ploop is saying that, Slubladop is now splintered. There's two factions. One faction worshiping, the original Sea Mother, and then this new faction, which is led by his daughter, is worshiping the Sea Father. And the two factions are fighting, and this has never happened in Slubladop. And Ploop is worried that he's going to lose his title as chief of Slubladop because his daughter has actually found this new power, and she's actually more powerful than him. So he tells Shushar, oh, my prayers have been answered. And then he comes up with this crazy plan to deceive his daughter, Blop. And he comes up with this, plan that maybe, we could use you as bait. We could offer you as sacrifices to the Sea Father to show our sign of good faith for the two different factions. So by this point, everybody's going, dude, you're not sacrificing anything. He's saying, oh, no, we're not going to sacrifice you. We just want to use you as bait, because he wanted to basically murder his daughter so he could eliminate the Sea Father faction from Slubladop and then bring back the harmonious times that Slubladop had before his daughter found this new power and started worshiping the Sea Father. So the party, they say, can we get together? So they kind of go off the beaten path and they're talking and they're like, do we really want to do this? Do we want to really risk this? And Eton and Jimson, they're like, yeah. And also, I will say this, Ploop offers every bit of treasure that Slubladop has. He offers everything. He offers everything and the kitchen sink to the party. And that was basically the deal breaker. Because Jimson and Eton are like, look, this guy's offering us everything. All we have to do is go in there and act like fake sacrifices, and then they're going to kill the daughter off. So they agree to do it. All right. So the Kuatoa, they lead them into Slubladop. I'm basically describing them as what they would see visually walking into this massive seaside type of shanty town. And there's a huge wall that protects Slubladop from any kind of attack. The guards at the gate are a little bit larger than all of the other Kuatoa. Heavily armored, lots of sharp weapons, a lot of barbed type weapons made out of bone and whatnot. There's a huge dock district that I tell them about, where there's all kinds of Kuatoa down there playing in the water and whatnot. They're getting a sense of everybody's watching them as they're being led, as their hands are bound behind their back, being led to Ploop's tent. There's all kinds of Kuatoa fishing. Some of the houses are on ground. Some of the shanties are on stilts, probably because of, in case the, Dark Lake floods or anything. And they get led into Ploop's private tent. And inside of the tent, now, they're unbound and whatnot. The tent's sealed up, and the party starts asking Ploop to have all of their weapons and armor fixed from the using temple. And plus Shushar's there, and Shushar also helps take care of that. So all of their gear and stuff is being taken off. Their weapons and stuff are being taken to the Kuatoa smithies that are in Slubladop. And, like I said, Ploop, he takes care of everything. Everything is on him. The party gets a little bit cleaned up. They also clean up the party treasure. I think everything's sold. I think they got about 100 gold apiece or not. They also have a couple messengers go out because they want to buy some supplies. They're out of rations. They buy some rations. I tell them that they can buy anything in the player's handbook. So they buy a bunch of rations. They buy some oils. They buy a couple more healing potions, etc. And this is all done secretly through Ploop. Now, food is also being brought in. It's like a huge seafood buffet. All kinds of crawfish, several different types of fish, like seaweed salads, all kinds of like crustacean desserts. So the party's actually having a good meal because they haven't had one in probably a month or so since they've been captured by the drow. So they're just scarfing down all this food. And as they're eating, Thingdarella sticks his head outside of the tent, and he sees that there is a huge statue of the Sea Mother right outside of Ploop's tent. And, of course, he sees all of the treasure that is basically on top of it, all around it, weapons sticking out of it, gold crowns, there's all kinds of statuettes, jewelry. And then when he's talking about this, all of a sudden, Fergie goes over there and says, "Ooh, jewelry?" So Fergie starts looking out of the tent, and you can just see these heads sticking out of the door of the tent going down as all the party members eventually start looking at that. And Ploop says, "All of this is yours if our plan works." And then they're all like, "If our plan works?" He says, "Didn't you already think this out? You told us that this was going to work." So Ploop, he says, "Oh yeah, it'll work." And then as this is going on, Fingderella, of course he was talking with Shushar about the Sea Mother before. He takes a gold piece and actually, because he's probably about 10, 15 feet away from the Sea Mother statue, so he just takes a coin and throws it over on top of all the other coins there. And Shushar's behind him, and Shushar's like starting to give him like a neck massage and a shoulder massage. And Shushar tells him that that's going to bring him good luck. And then Fingerella says, "What is that against my back?" sort of like, is that something in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? So that was pretty funny. Then the son of Ploop, his name is Gloog, and he's brought into Ploop's tent. And he's introduced to the party and whatnot. And he's telling his son about this grand plan that they're going to be used as like a fake sacrifice to lure his daughter and his sister into being vulnerable to where they can attack and kill her. But Gloog, he really doesn't want any of this. He expresses that he doesn't want the outsiders getting involved, because that will bring bad luck on Slubladop. And his dad, basically, Ploop, just ignores him. He's like, "You can't get any worse right now, son. We are in dire times right now, and we need to do this." So he sends one of his messengers to Blop, which is his daughter, and basically they get about another hour or so of R&R. And he gives word to his daughter that out on a raiding party, they found this group of adventurers, and he wants to offer them to her to show a sign of good faith between the Sea Mother and the Sea Father. Word comes back in a little bit that she accepts the offer and to meet her at the altar of the Sea Father in an hour. So that time goes by. They finish all of their loose ends up, as in buying their equipment, selling all of the party loot, splitting up the gold. He also, Ploop, shows them all of the treasure that they're going to get, in this massive chest that's basically buried into the floor of his living quarters also. All kinds of gold, potions, items. So the party's excited. They're like, "Holy crap." And Puck at this time is like, "You even have a magical bow you're going to give me, right, for this?" And he says, "Oh yeah, it's out there. It's out there in the mess where the altar of the Sea Mother is." So now he's like super fired up. He's excited. He thinks he's gonna get a magical bow finally. So the hour goes by. The guards come. They get bound back up, even though they're not bound, and they get escorted to the Sea Father altar. And this thing looks hideous. It looks horrible. It smells. In fact, all of Slubladop smells. But as they get closer to this altar of the Sea Father, it looks like a giant octopus that's been drawn and quartered with all kinds of other fish guts and stuff like that. I mean, it just is absolutely horrible looking. They get put down on their knees in front of the stage, basically. There's a stage behind the altar, which is right up against the Dark Lake. And Ploop goes on stage and formally offers the party to his daughter, Blop. She accepts, and she says that her father is old and wise, and this was the right thing to do. So all of the Kuatoa, they start to celebrate, they start to dance around and, perform ceremonies on the stage, all around the bound party members. They also start dancing down in the dark lake behind the stage, and they're all splashing around and all that other good stuff. So as this is going on, Blop is basically telling the guards to go ahead and bring the sacrifices up to the stage because we're going to get this shindig on and we're going to kill us some humanoids so we can have the blood sacrifice on the altar below the stage. So the Kuatoa guards, they start to poke the party members lightly up to the stage. They walk up on the stage. The celebrations are still going on all around them. And they're brought into position. And Jimson is the first one that's put down on his knees in front of this like chopping block where the blood will run down and splash on the octopus altar down below. And this is about when all hell starts to break loose. Because now both Ploop and Gloog, old father and son, they take their weapons and smash him into the head of Blop's skull. And you can hear bone cracking. A couple of the party members have, Kuatoa flesh splashed up on him, and she's dead. And now chaos ensues with all this fighting between both factions. They're all fighting one another. Now, I made the party do some notice checks so they could see some things going on around them. The first thing I told them is that they noticed that none of the Kuatoa were really keeping tabs on them. Even the executioner jumped down and started fighting the other Kuatoa that were starting to basically destroy the Sea Father altar. And this huge fight is going on. They also start to see Kuatoas flying through the air, landing all around them. They start to hear wood splintering. They start to hear screams behind them down at the edge of the dark lake where the docks are and where all of the Kuatoa were basically celebrating in the water. They turn around. They see a ship wrapped up in this long tentacle that's coming out of the lake. And this boat is literally thrown into the middle of Sloobladop, and a couple of the shanties go flying everywhere. Well, the party, there's up on the stage still, right? And both Ploop and his son, Gloog, they turn around towards the lake and they're starting to yell out this Limu Goo Goo, Limu Goo Goo, and they're on their knees and their hands are up in the air. And by this point, all of a sudden, this massive creature rises, the Demogorgon, splashes out of the lake. It looks like it's got two ape heads, massive tusk, all kinds of fire coming out of its red eyes, these massive black tentacles that are smashing the dock district, by the way, and Kuatoa are flying everywhere. And this Demogorgon is about 150 yards from the shoreline. So this was a time for madness rolls. And everybody started burning all their inspiration for these two. And unbelievably, 3 people failed. And, everybody basically had either 2 or 3 inspiration saved up. So Fingderella, Fergie, and Puck, all 3 of them actually gained 1 level of madness. And if you get up to X amount of levels of madness, then you start having long-term effects and permanent effects of madness, which is pretty cool. So 3 party members, even though burning 2 and 3 inspirations, still failed, and they've got some madness, so it's nice. So this thing is starting to barrel its way towards Sloobladop, right? It's coming right for the dock district. And the tentacles are outreach, and it's already smashing the hell out of it. So the party members are like, okay, we need to get the loot and we need to get the F out of Dodge, right? So first thing they say is, let's get the loot on the way out. So they run back over to Ploop's tent, and I give them a couple rounds to take as much treasure as they can grab. And they're grabbing it from the altar, they're grabbing it from that huge chest that's buried in the ground inside of his tent. And as they come out, this was a perfect time for me to eliminate a couple of the NPCs. So I went ahead and rolled a couple dice into the tower, even though it really didn't mean anything. And it just got them worried as I'm like, oh no, he's rolling in the dice tower. And this tentacle comes down and smashes a couple of the shanties and knocks Sereth the Dark Elf and Ront, the orc, the half-orc, up against a couple of shanties, and I kill him outright. So the party's like, oh crap, we got to get out of here. So Eton picks up Stool, and with Eldith and Jimjar, which are the only ones left now, they haul ass out of Sloob Ladop. And, you know, as they're leaving, they can hear all of the sounds of destruction behind them. And, you know, they can hear the wood splintering. They can see a wooden ship came about 100, 200 feet from hitting them. Kuatoa flying around all over the place. So they ran. They ran and they ran and they ran. They ran for about 2 miles. So they went ahead and they found a nice little hiding spot. And the first thing they did was they could care less because they could still kind of hear faint screams from this Demogorgon and stuff off in the distance. And the first thing they're worried about is, how much treasure did we get? So I gave them about 1,500 gold, and then I gave them several other items as well. And Puck was like, I want to go back. I want to get that bow. And they're like, dude, we are not going back to Sloob Ladop. And then Club wanted to kind of go back. So then they start doing a vote. And they're like, okay, what the hell do we need to do? How the hell are we going to get out of here? You know, Eldith tells them that her uncle is Brunor Battlehammer in Gauntlgrim. And Stool still wants to go to Neverlight Grove. Jimjar wants to go to Blingden Stone. So they take a vote. They vote not to go back to Sloob Ladop. They just write that off. So they decide to go to Blingden Stone. It's the closest. It's 20 days away. So they decided to travel the edge of the lake to get them to Blingden Stone, because Blingden Stone, it would actually be the smartest and easiest way to get there. And they were also thinking maybe they could find some type of ferryman or something like that, or maybe some type of airship service to, you know, like United Airlines, to take them right to Blingden Stone. Because I'm not going to do random, like I said in the first episode, I'm not going to do random encounters every day. I'm going to have stuff set up for them. And they're going to meet Mick the Peddler. And Mick the Peddler, if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that that was made by one of my friends, West River Rat. And he's a Smurf Nebulin, a deep gnome, that is a traitor. And he's a very cocky guy. And so they're going to meet him, and he's going to be able to take him on his ship to Blingden Stone. But first, as they're resting, they take another rest. They eat a little bit of food and stuff. And as they're starting to journey the shore, make the journey to Blingden Stone on the shore of the Dark Lake, all of a sudden I start sending tells to Eton. And this was a random roll. This was to count towards one of the magic items, because this is a sword called Dawnbringer. And it's an intelligence sword that is calling out. And Eton did not get a magic item yet. So I went ahead, and he was the lucky recipient of the roll. So he starts getting these female voices that he's hearing in his head saying, help me, save me, help me, you're getting closer, you're getting warmer. And Eton's saying, are you guys hearing this? And nobody's hearing it, and they're going, "What the hell, dude? Are you suffering from this madness?" Because they didn't know if I had them do all their madness rolls in the dice tower, so nobody knows if they have madness or not. So Eton's like, "No, I'm hearing voices, and she is calling for me to help her." So he goes off towards where the direction the voice is coming from, and she's telling him, "Yes, this is the way. Closer, closer. I've been here forever. You need to help me." And the party members are like, "Oh, shit. We got to go." So as Eton storms off, everybody else starts to follow Eton. And by this point, we kind of glance over and we see Fingorella, because now he's had quite a few drinks during the session. And he's literally sitting there with his eyes closed like this, just kind of nodding off. And everybody starts yelling in his headset to get him to wake up. It was actually pretty funny. So as Eton goes, the voice says, "I'm closer, closer." Everybody's saying, "Is this a good idea?" Usually when something is telling you that you're getting closer, it's usually a bad thing. And then the party finds this entrance, a beautiful marble entrance. And this is the Lost Tomb of Kale. And the Lost Tomb of Kale was a civilization on the surface world, but in time fell into ruin, most of it. And then as cataclysms happened on the surface world, it basically fell miles beneath the surface into the Underdark. And this is where I've introduced the Lost Tomb of Kale. And there is Dawnbringer, like I said. So this is basically where we were starting to wrap things up, and we had about another 10-15 minutes left. And the party went inside of the Lost Tomb of Kale. And like I said, I told them it was undisturbed by time. And they could see all kinds of dioramas and all kinds of information about Bryce's Cam, which was a noble at this time. They could see in the dioramas this huge floating city in the background. This was in like a like an entry chamber, sort of like told a story about the tomb. And then Fingorella found some stairs going down, and that's where they descended, where they came into a room where a shrine was. And in this place, there's a lot of undead. And there's also the spirit of Cam. So I'm really looking forward to doing the Lost Tomb. This is where we ended for the session. And now they're 20 days from Blingdenstone. They're going to, hang out here, do the Tomb of Kale. Then I'm going to take them in the future. When they get out of here, I'm going to take them back to the Dark Lake, where they're going to meet Mick the Peddler. And, they're also going to meet another very, very famous Dark Elf that is very popular in Forgotten Realms lore. And from there, they're going to head to Blingdenstone, which is, like I said, 20 days. But with the help of Mick the Peddler, they'll be able to cut it down to about 6 days or so. Then also, I'm going to be bringing in, remember, they're still running from the Drow also. So as they're traveling across the Dark Lake, I'm going to have a bunch of Drow attack them on the ship that they're on. So that's going to be a pretty tough encounter. And then once they get to Blingdenstone, everything else happens, and we'll talk about Blingdenstone later. So there you go, everybody. I think the Out of the Abyss campaign is going along quite smoothly. They're actually getting through quite a bit. I decided not to do the Hook Horror Cave. I think the Hook Horror Cave was something that was just thrown together and put in there. I think, the hobgoblins could be a good random encounter individually, but along with it was a massive Hook Horror Cave system, but there was just nothing in it. And I just didn't feel like putting a bunch of stuff together to put in it when I could take them through the Tomb of Kale and have a good time with that, and then introduce them to Mick the Peddler and bring in one of the Dark Elf encounters on their way to Blingdenstone. And then I'm going to have, as they're fighting the Drow, I'm actually going to have a couple of quippering swarms around the boat in case they fall in. I'm going to have a couple of giant octopus attacking at the same time. So it's going to be a pretty fun encounter with Mick the Peddler. But I do think it's a good thing that they're starting to warm up with role-playing, like I had mentioned earlier. It's actually making me really feel like I'm doing my job as a dungeon master, portraying the story to them and giving them my corny voices and stuff like that. And they're giving it back to me now, which is really good. You know, they're role-playing with one another a lot more now. So the game is actually going in a great direction, and I really look forward to playing this game. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Don't forget, you can also download this on my Digital Dungeon Master Podcast website. Thank you guys again, and until next time, happy gaming and stay savage.